The year is 1909. The British Empire, a force that spanned the globe, faced growing unrest in its Indian jewel. Nationalist sentiments, like seeds scattered by the wind, had taken root in the hearts of many Indians. They yearned for a say in their own governance, a desire the British could no longer ignore. Imagine the bustling streets of Calcutta alive with political discourse. Newspapers filled with fiery editorials fanned the flames of change. The Indian National Congress, formed in 1885, had become a powerful voice for reform. Its calls for greater Indian participation in government echoed across the subcontinent. The British, facing mounting pressure, realized a change was necessary. Lord Morley, the Secretary of State for India, and Lord Minto, the Viceroy of India, embarked on a course to address these demands. Their answer? The Morley-Minto reforms. These reforms, a pivotal moment in Indo-British relations, aimed to appease Indian aspirations while maintaining British control. They represented a delicate balancing act, a tightrope walk between reform and repression. The Morley-Minto reforms, introduced in 1909, ushered in a new era in Indian governance. At the heart of these reforms lay the expansion of legislative councils. The number of Indian members increased, giving them a greater voice in policy-making. Imagine the halls of power now graced by a larger presence of Indian representatives. Yet, the reforms also sowed the seeds of future discord. The introduction of separate electorates for Muslims proved to be a particularly contentious measure. This meant Muslims could only vote for Muslim candidates, effectively dividing the electorate along religious lines. Another significant provision was the inclusion of Indians in executive councils, marking a historic first. Imagine the weight of responsibility as Indians, for the first time, shared the helm of their own administration. This move, while symbolic, represented a small step towards self-governance. While the Morley-Minto reforms promised progress, they were met with a mixed reception. Indian nationalists, though pleased with increased representation, viewed them as insufficient. They yearned for genuine self-rule, not just a larger say in a system still controlled by the British. The separate electorates, while seemingly empowering Muslims, drew sharp criticism. Many saw it as a cynical ploy to divide and conquer. This divide and rule policy, they argued, was intended to exacerbate religious tensions and weaken the nationalist movement. Imagine the frustration of Indian leaders witnessing their hopes for unity undermined by this divisive measure. The reforms, instead of fostering harmony, seemed to deepen existing fault lines within Indian society. The Morley-Minto reforms, despite their shortcomings, proved to be a turning point in India's struggle for independence. They marked an important concession by the British, acknowledging the legitimacy of Indian aspirations for self-governance. Imagine the impact of these reforms on the Indian psyche. The taste of political participation, however limited, only fueled the desire for more. The reforms, in a way, had the unintended consequence of galvanizing the independence movement. The seeds of discontent sown by the reforms continued to grow in the following decades. The demand for complete independence intensified, ultimately culminating in India's hard-won freedom in 1947.